Okay, well, I just had a shout out from Robert. What's his last name?
Salzar.
Salazar. Oh, I know him. And I just said hi, Robert, and we weren't even recording. All right, I slipped and fell.
Oh, foot.
Oh God, sorry, but
Painful.
yeah, no, it didn't hurt. I just have old lady skin. Anyway, we are going to with I love you, Robert. I mean, Robert. Oh, I love you, Robert, and I love you, Eric, and I love you, Denise. And we will get started.
He says, Mama, I love you. And he was telling me to ask you about the pink shoes. And I said, Eric, I'm not going to ask her. And then I see that you're wearing like a pink blouse. So,
Yeah. I did
okay.
buy some new flip-flops that have some pink and other little, bright colors in it. So that's probably what it's talking about.
Okay. I didn't know, but I'm not asking her about pink shoes. And then I see you're wearing pink. So anyway, he says he's ready to go. He's rubbing his hands. He says, this is a good one. So
yes, novel treatments or just different, treatments than the usual for depression. Okay.
I wonder.
I got another one I'm going to bring up. Okay. So, what about there's this thing called induced after-death communication, and I don't know what it's about. There's this one main guy, I can't remember his name, that sort of induces you into some sort of trance, or I'm not really sure, but do you know what that is, Eric? And you get to you get to see your loved ones, and this is, I guess, perfect for people who are really depressed and grief-stricken because they miss their loved ones.
Yes, Eric is telling me it's like it's almost like you get to preview about what it would be like, and how it's going to affect people. And he also says you get to feel the emotions and stuff, what's going on. And I'm asking him with the other people, and he says, yes, you get to feel the energy in the room. You get to feel the emotions of everyone. So you get to hear and see the if only you would have stayed stories.
Oh, okay. So you would, it's like you died and here's what would be like, here's the ramifications.
Yes. And you get to experience that. And because Eric says, everything is now, so it's not like you get to, he just says everything is now, so you get to experience that. And he says, for some people that's real effective because it helps them to see, as I would say, flip the switch on our perspective of things. And it also, Eric says, it also kind of like regenerates some of the chemicals in their brain or something.
Wow.
And it helps them to go, okay, I'm not 100% happy all the time right now, but I'm able to breathe and think a little bit clearer and move into the direction that people have been wanting me to go to, like get out of the house, get into therapy, do this modality or something like that.
Okay.
Eric says it's like a second breath of air.
Yeah. So what about, like, I was kind of looking into it when I lost Eric, but I think it was like it's really expensive and like a 70% chance or maybe even less. And I thought, it probably wouldn't work on me. So, but if it did work and you saw your loved one there, it's like they're doing fine. You see that, would that help with the depression, like the grief of losing a loved one?
Eric says, yes, it can help with that because he says you get to see you get a clearer vision of things, of
Like
what's, of how things, of how life is, going on, and how things are when someone crosses over, or how if you need to cross over your own self, you get to see, like, say for you doing this with Erik, Erik says you would get to see, for you, you would get to see, he's saying you almost, it's like you get to see how much better you would be doing and your family, like you would get a glimpse of what you would be doing. And then also Erik says on some level you get to see, you get to know that he's okay.
Yeah. Do you get to see like, oh, I get why that happened. It was a spiritual contract or things like that?
He says it's not like reading a book and you go, oh, okay, I see why that took place.
Okay.
It's an inner knowing. And
I got you.
it's an inner knowing. And he says you can try and put it to words, but the words really won't match what you feel inside because it's just an inner knowing.
I think knowing that that he's okay or your loved one's happy is wonderful. Can you get messages from them, or it's just the knowing, the telepathy?
He says you can, you can get messages, but Erik is telling me, but it also, in a way, it teaches you, you know that you can communicate with them. So you don't have to keep doing that, because you just know that they're there, and it's just, so there's no doubt. But he says, but that is not going to alleviate the humanness that you have. So he says, Mom, you would still have to go through the grieving process. You would still have to go through the tears and stuff like that. And he said, but what it would do is help fill in that gaping hole that you have.
Okay.
Or had. Yeah.
So why does it not work all the time? What is the obstacle for some people?
He said some people don't want it to work. It's and sometimes, he said subconsciously, and then there's a lot of the guilt. He says there's a lot of guilt, and the way he's saying that, and he's saying forgiveness. So I guess there's like forgiveness of maybe that forgiveness for your own self, of knowing that maybe you didn't reach out the hand to him or her at one time, but that's not what did it. It's
but maybe what if I could have done this? What if I didn't do enough?
Yes. Erik says that's like a heavy weight that people carry with them, and the bottom line is, Erik says, if you could have done something different, you would have.
Yeah. Well, are there any other factors like alcohol, substance abuse, nutrition, antidepressants, things like that?
Erik says definitely that all makes a difference. And he says, of course, your antidepressants, your alcohol, any kind of pharmaceuticals, mind-altering stuff. And he says, and your diet plays a part in it.
Okay. Now let's go on to hallucinogens like LSD, ketamine, psilocybin, magic mushrooms, ayahuasca, peyote, things like that. And DMT, the what is it called? The spirit molecule or something?
Erik says all of that is really good for this type of work, because this is really medicine. It's not really meant for recreational use, which people do, and they just, it's like we hear the stories of people floating off or falling off or whatever. But it's really, when he says it's not recreational, and he's saying it's not recreational like smoking pot or eating edibles or something like that.
Right.
This kind of medicine is really, it's medicine. And he says it's made to, you really need somebody who really understands what it is they do with this. And he's saying that's what that guy Terrence McKenna was
Right.
about exploring the above and beyond, as Erik says. And what it does is it gets you, it like gets you, helps to get you underneath yourself, your human self, so that you can see what it is that's blocking you from being your total authentic self. And Erik says it's extremely healing, and it's not expensive. And he says, but you have to make sure you are with a trained individual who can help facilitate you. He's showing me there's groups. So I feel like there are groups now where they give you this medicine and they guide people through the process and that. And he says it's very healing and very emotional.
Wow. So yeah, probably cut through years or decades of therapy, probably, huh?
Well, Erik says it cuts through the bullshit.
Yeah.
That's his words, not mine.
You manipulating the therapist and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is one better than another, or one is better than another for each person, or just take them all?
He says it's not one's better than the other. It's really on the individual.
Okay.
And he says more and more people are being drawn to the ayahuasca, the mushrooms and stuff like that, because they're hearing more success stories behind that than anything else.
Okay. What do you think?
That's a real good thing for pain for some reason. Like if you can get to the underlying of pain, it's really good for like chronic pain, he says.
Okay. Psilocybin and ayahuasca, you said? Or
Yes.
all right. What do you think is more successful in a bigger percentage of people? LSD, ketamine, psilocybin, ayahuasca, peyote, or DMT, or others that I don't even know about. Go lick a toad.
He says it's different for each individual. And he says, and it's kind of like where the person's mind process is. So,
okay.
So he says, he's telling me, so for someone like me, LSD wouldn't work because I have this thought process of what LSD is.
I see.
So he's saying for me, it would have to be something more like ayahuasca would be better, or not that I haven't done it, but he's just saying it's about your mindset. So if you don't go in thinking, oh, this is a 60s drug and everybody's freaking out and like, then but it just depends where you are. And he says, and a lot of that depends on the person's experiences where they are here. And that's why it's so important to have somebody that knows exactly what they're doing, why they're facilitating you through this. He goes, Mom, you would be a really good person to help people facilitate through this.
I don't know anything about this. You get me? All right. What about, is there one particular of these that seemed to be better for people suffering from PTSD? Or two or three of those?
He says the ayahuasca is really good. And he says one of the reasons why it is because of the nature of where it comes from and the gentleness from it. And you can still get that in the pure form, but without it being chemically treated and stuff like that. And what was it? What was a couple of the other ones? Because
LSD, ketamine, ayahuasca, peyote, and DMT, and that's all I know.
DMT, he says.
Yeah, the spirit molecule.
The DMT, yes, he says that's good. But then again,
it depends on the individual and where their mindset is,
and who's facilitating it. He says that's so important.
What are special properties about DMT? I know there was a big documentary about it a long time ago, a while ago anyway. What's special about it?
Erik is saying one of the things that's special about it is that it can't be, and I don't even know what it is, but he's saying it can't be chemically reproduced. So I guess it's in its natural form, Erik, is that? He's saying, yes, it's like you can't, of course people can taint anything, but he's saying it's really it's in its authentic form.
Okay.
Is what he's saying.
I mean, I'm also talking about what's so special about how it affects you spiritually, emotionally, mentally.
Okay. Well, he says, I guess this is why he was telling why I was getting this, because of when it enters your body, or when it's entering your body, it's like a soothing coat, and you feel automatically a sense of safety. And he says, and that's the main thing, that a lot of us just want to feel safe.
And that's why you recommend it for some people with PTSD, I guess.
Yes, and he says it's a feeling, and the reason why it's a feeling of safety, and he's shown me how it's just how it responds chemically in your body.
Oh.
And then it helps to ease you, and because of that safety, it's like you welcome anything that comes forward, and you know that anything that's coming forward is for the good of you, he's saying. So I guess that's when you're seeing things, or I don't know.
So you're not going to just go batshit crazy and it's just fearful and all that. Unlike
Erik says no. Erik says that's a real gentle one, very gentle. Yeah.
Okay, now what about, a lot of people who've had trauma, they get big old portals that open up either in their energy body, their homes, or both, usually both. And then all this negative energy and negative entities come in, and they feed off depression, substance abuse, and all sorts of stuff. And they can cause all sorts of, emotional and physical illnesses, mental illnesses, spiritual diseases. So, so I would think that closing those, permanently sealing them, and just wrapping this golden shield that stays there permanently, and of course, getting rid of those negative energies and entities, would that be a very unusual form of approaching depression? Would that work? Of course, if there's the trauma, very often, of course, you still have to heal from that trauma, and there's some sort of, yeah.
Erik said yes, that would be very helpful, because what it does is it helps to bring, because as you're doing that, Erik is showing me the breaking it down. And I just know for me, even whenever I do go into bars, nightclubs, whatever you're called, I can only stand for about maybe an hour in there, because the energy, just the vibrational is just so low. It's so dense in there, and it's
wow.
And sometimes, I do pick up some, what I call them as hitchhikers, because they want to transition to the other side, and because these people are carrying them. But Erik says, when you close all of this up, it helps to raise their frequency, or their vibration, I guess their vibration, to where they can start thinking clearer thoughts, and making more sound decisions, to where they can think, oh, well, let me go spend 30 minutes in meditation, because that might help, or let me eat a healthy breakfast instead of donuts with icing on it, or it helps them to think clearer. And he said it definitely makes a huge difference, because those energies can really make you feel even more crazy.
Yeah, well, when I first started, looking into this whole portal thing, I just closed the open portals. I didn't know that there were good portals that could close down, and therefore you don't get, they're supposed to be open so you can get abundance and creativity and streams of, consciousness and stuff. So I found out that I had 2 closed up portals that need to be open, and also 5 negative entities. So I had to deal with that today with Erik's help. So, yeah, that's.
Erik says you're becoming a teacher, Mom.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I want to go. All right. So,
No, no, you don't. He says you'd be amazed.
so astral travel. I saw a Gaia program that sometimes astral travel can help, and also lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming, if you can learn how to do it, you can sort of, you'll work on while you're lucid dreaming. You can make a conscious decision to work on some of your issues, to, even if you're a professional athlete, train while you're doing it, all sorts of things. So lucid dreaming and astral travel, we could do one at a time. What about astral travel? Can that be used as a tool to help with depression?
Erik says definitely, because when you're astral traveling, you're going to other places, so you're getting different energies, and 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 it helps you to get almost like, it's like reading a lot of knowledgeable books and you bring it back,
Yeah.
and then also he says you feel good because you're lighter and you feel good when you're
Yeah.
doing that, and it's fun, so then people are like, whoa, I want to do that again, so that releases endorphins in their
Oh, I
you
didn't
know
think about that. Yeah.
and so he's saying, that he says definitely,
Well, of course, it could be that thing. Well, I don't want to stay out there. I don't want to go to this shit hole here. Let's see. You got to moderate, I suppose.
Well, and he says, and it also helps people to have which it's like, duh, it helps people to start regulating, having better sleep patterns because they want to go and
Oh, yeah.
travel. Because people who suffer from depression, either A, they sleep a lot, or they don't sleep, and this will help them to have better sleep patterns.
All right. Well, when you're astral traveling, do you also get a more objective perspective of, what's going on in your life, your obstacles, and things like that?
Erik says you can, and he says also too what it does. He's showing me these real big glasses, like clown glasses, where you get a really, it's like you're putting on a better prescription and you're able to see things clearer. But Erik says when you're doing this, you're seeing things differently, but in a non-judgmental way. So
Yeah.
there's no ego involved in it. So
Judging yourself. Yeah.
yeah, so you're able to go, oh, so that's why people talk to me crappy because I talk to them crappy, or
Mhm.
and you're able to just see things from Erik says, a loving way. He says there's no judgment, and yeah, he said things are just clearer. He says when you're doing this, and for some people, it can be a little frightening because it depends on what substance they had in their body before they went to bed,
Yeah.
and it depends on the level of the mental illness too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, there are people who can teach you and
Oh,
advise you, I suppose.
yes, definitely.
Lucid dreaming. Tell me about that and how you can use it to help treat your depression, if you can.
He said with lucid dreaming, it's like you're able to recreate a situation without any, it's almost like you don't have any emotional baggage attached to it, is what he's saying.
Well, that
And
makes sense.
and you're able to recreate or relive situations, and it may not make sense to you about a situation, but the feeling will make total sense. And
Oh,
he says, and this helps you to work out things.
yeah. That's what it seemed like the Gaia microdose little short video was saying. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And he says, Erik says, that's what we do when we dream. We're working through things, but
Yeah.
sometimes we don't understand them because it has different people involved, or we're somewhere else, and we don't realize that those are a reflection of all of us, ourselves. And he says, and with this lucid dreaming, he says he says it's not in a foreign language, so we're able to understand more of what's going on.
Okay.
He says we all do it, but we just don't realize it.
Yeah. Now, what about scalar energy? You know, that's the it's different from electromagnetic energy. It is informational energy, and you know, it's a helical, almost like DNA is the same thing. And there are programs, pure scalar energy, that you can set like 5.65 for depression to 30 minutes for this many months. Or there's even programs like Scalar Rife that you can download, and you can even like put a picture of yourself right between the transceiver and the, you know, receiver. What do you think about those two for depression?
Well, Erik says that's frequency, vibration.
Yeah, it's frequency therapy pretty much.
Yes. And
Yeah.
he says that is extremely powerful because we're responding to vibration, to frequencies, you know. He says everything is vibrational, everything has a frequency to it. It's not any, he goes, that's, you know, it sounds like something new that's happening, but it's like, it's really in a way like a common thing that we just are so unaware of. But he says it's like when we watch TV and we're watching a murder mystery, how, you know, our frequency changes, you know, our vibration changes. And so when you have this system in that's putting, you know, you have it regulated for a certain frequency for the good, he says it can only, it's like magic in a way of what it can do, and it's long lasting. And what happens is when you do this, it allows, like, say, he's saying, like, for me, if you were to do this, it allows me to think clearer, to make clearer decisions, and also to see things in a different perspective.
Yeah.
He said.
So I think it would be great that, you know, there's a depression program and PTSD programs, you know, that, you know.
Oh, he says that would be awesome on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said that would be awesome on that. And he says, and stuff like this is becoming more popular than traditional therapy, because this type of therapy doesn't take you years to heal. You can see results after a few days. He even says you can start
to see, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, he says start to, like, oh wow, like I got up at 6 today instead of 10 o'clock. And then you do it for a few months, and it's huge. And he says it's also good for weight loss, people that are having trouble with weight loss.
There's that kind of program. But
is there? Okay.
People who sell these machines do not know what Erik knows. It's amazing. You had to put this, it reads the biofield of the person's picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you had to put an intent card and the photo in Himalayan salt for 36 hours. I mean, he does, you know, there's so much very specific things. How many 7/8 of an inch from that edge, and the intent card has to be touching, and oh my God, there's so much detail. That
a lot of math, he says, a lot of math.
There's oh my God, it's so detailed, and the machines are not cheap either. But anyway, so it can, you know, supposedly cure cancer too. So we're working on.
He says, yeah, because of the frequency and everything.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
He says everything has a frequency. Everything is vibrational. So why can't it cure cancer?
Yes. Yeah.
If you get the person in alignment with that, he says magic can happen.
It's exciting. What about going to your Akashic, checking the thing, Akashic records? Is there anything that will help your depression in that?
Erik says,
and the spiritual DNA, because maybe there's a long line of depression, suicide in the family, and it's a spiritual DNA thing.
Erik says definitely. Excuse me. He said definitely. He goes, especially like when you say the long line of depression and stuff. because when you start when it's brought to your attention that this is what's going on, then you kind of like are able to breathe a little bit deeper because you realize it's not just you. Because he says when you're in depression, when people are really depressed, they think it's just them, even though they know they're not the only ones. It's just them.
It feels like that.
Yes, and people just don't understand. And he's saying, so when you can go back and show like this has been, generational or whatever, or this has been past life stuff that you've been working through and know like this is the heaviness of it and this is where it is. He said it definitely can aid in helping people to heal. And Erik says it has helped quite a few people with depression. And Erik says there's some people in channeling Erik who have had this done and it has completely changed their thoughts from taking their own life. And he says yes, and and there's some people within channeling Erik that really are good at knowing how to do this as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that Kim Voigt does it at Embodied-Light. I'm sure there's others, but she did that with me. Took me to the Akashic records, cut my spiritual DNA way back then, and it really, really helped. Now, regressive therapy, that's along the same lines, because I know like there's so many people who have this, like all of a sudden they become suicidal. And then they found out that exactly the same age in another life, could be a future life or past life, they committed suicide. So, or they, like this one person is, that I know is becoming blind and with found out that in a future life, she was responsible for her kid being exposed to noxious fumes and becoming blind. So if you find that out, it's amazing. And one of my sisters, she developed gestational diabetes in a past life. It's a past life. She had a birth at about that time. She lost that baby because of unsterile practices. So it was a past life bleed through. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, regressive therapy and depression. I took you down a rabbit hole, of course.
No, it's interesting. So you said regressional?
Yeah, regressive, because it might not be past, it could be future, progressive.
Okay. And I've had something like that done in the process of me healing from sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And I can only say it's tremendous help.
Oh.
It's tremendous. And it's worth the money. It knocks off months and months of therapy. And it's just extremely helpful. And Erik is saying it really is. He says, it sounds so way out there, but they've been doing this for centuries.
Oh yeah.
These tribal people and stuff, he's showing me this is what they do. This isn't, but for us, it's kind of like woo-woo stuff, but really it isn't. But he says, definitely. And he says, and you can like seal things and stop things.
Yes.
And he says, you can also like stop chronic pain and
so much. Yeah.
Yes, he said it's just phenomenal. But people are like real leery of it, and it's Erik says just jump into it, and he says, what do you got to lose but $300-400?
Oh yeah. I don't know anybody here. I'll remind you to text me who it is.
Okay.
Because I have somebody who needs that.
Okay.
Okay, so EMDR, the eye movement thing, that's really good for PTSD. And also that Soul Happy program, I think is awesome. The soulhappy.com, which has EMDR components to it. What do you think about those for depression? And I guess they're mostly for depression related to PTSD, right?
Well, Erik says in some form or fashion, depression is all related to PTSD of some sort or another, but some are just more deeper than other. Some people have their PTSD is much larger and more profound than, you
Yeah.
know. But Erik says the eye movement, the eye one, he says that's really good, because when you're talking about it, he goes, because you have to stay here
Yeah.
when this is going on, and whatever the person is doing to help you with it, they're focusing also on your breathing, he's saying,
Okay.
and doing the eye movement. And it's Erik is showing me what happens when you do this, when they're working on this. It's almost like you're dissolving um, stories in your
Oh,
mind that
wow.
keep you there, and it's helping you to bring your power back, you know, that got fragmented off, and what it's doing, it's helping you to bring, he's showing me, it's bringing pieces of you back.
Yeah, that's interesting because
Wow.
then they'll ask, okay, what is it rated at? Maybe it started at 10, and then slowly the emotional charge just descends and it descends and it descends.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Is there any other energy healing that would be beneficial for depression that we haven't talked about?
um Erik is saying soul retrieval is real powerful, because it's where I'm listening to him instead of me. He's saying it's like when we go through life, and parts of us have life changing moments that are not for the better, we kind of fragment off from that in order to stay present in a sense.
Okay.
And especially when you're growing up, especially when there's trauma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of knock off those parts of you. And he said, or when you're in an abusive relationship, or when you're, you know, any type of PTSD, you know, and stuff, the parts of you fragment off. And he says, and when you go and get a soul retrieval, in a sense, and he says,
Wow.
people call it other names too. I'm not catching, he's just saying there's other names. So people will say, oh, that's this or that. But you're grabbing parts of those of you back, and you're being reintroduced to that, and you're becoming whole, and it's like you're embracing those parts that you cut off, and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, I had that, something like that, and I think it's the same thing, I don't know if he called it that, by Ryan Adragna, who's no longer with us on this. It was like the most powerful thing I've ever had done. And I've had a few soul retrievals, and this one,
Wow.
I mean, it was extremely powerful. I mean, it was so emotional. And my mom, dad, and brother from the other side came into the healing circle of it. It was like tremendous, tremendous.
Cool.
Yes, but he says that is so good, and it's, but it's different. It calls different names in different sections of the
Country or whatever world.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now this is from Paula Marino, who's doing the documentary. She's stuck there because of COVID up in Montreal, but she's working on adding animated bits for where Erik would be and stuff, but not cartoony stuff.
Right.
So she wants to know how magic mushrooms differ from other natural hallucinogens. I mean, are they special in some way?
Well, the magic mushrooms, Erik says, you know, it depends on how they're grown and where they're grown.
Okay.
You know, and Erik is saying some people are starting to grow some of these of their own.
Okay.
So it depends on where it is. And Erik tells me, you know, it just has to be a real clean environment. So
So don't go licking the ones on cow turds.
oh, I know. But he's telling me, with that though, you really have to know the dose of what you're
Oh
getting,
yeah. Oh God.
and
Yeah.
also know, like, it's almost like the species of it is what he's saying, because you have to really know what the species of it, so you know exactly what you're getting. Is
Well, should you just get the extract, the psilocybin, the pure psilocybin?
you can, but Erik says, but be sure you know where it's coming from. Know
Okay.
your source.
Well, I wouldn't know anything. So, is it true, like Terrence McKenna said, that they were brought here by aliens?
Um, Erik kind of laughs. He goes, you know, everybody had a hand kind of in everything that they did here, and the way he's showing me different things. But he says he's showing me hands. So yes, I'm taking that as a yes, the way he's showing me the different hands.
All
And
right.
he's making fun of me. He's saying, you got trails going, Denise, is what he's telling me.
So some people say that depression, that the magic mushrooms, it just raises their vibration, and that's the way it treats depression. Is that true?
Mm, well, that's not totally true, because if that was the truth, they wouldn't be able to keep their vibration up there once they came off of the mushrooms.
Oh yeah.
So he's saying what it does, though, it does help to raise their vibration enough to look at the bottom of the pit to see what's keeping them there.
Oh, I see.
And then they can, but it's ultimately they make a choice. Do I want to bring this to the surface and make peace with it and do whatever? And he says, for the most part, a lot of people, the reason when they go into it with that thought process, they want to make peace with that.
Yeah. Okay. But what about microdosing on psilocybin? Yes, there was some big trend there for a while. I don't know if it is, but just little bits to like work performance and all that.
Erik says,
Is that something for depression, in other words?
Erik says yes, but you got to be real careful, because some people will want to do it as recreational.
Okay, but what about an actual treatment for depression?
Erik says definitely yes, but he says it really needs to be monitored.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, anything else you want to say, Erik?
Erik is saying that the medical profession has done some very profound work on depression, uh, and to see what works and doesn't work. And he's saying that, you know, they've done a good job of being able to prove, in a sense, this is how far we can come.
Yeah.
And now he says things that have been around forever are coming back or making a full circle. And now we're starting to listen to it more.
Good.
And he says, and we're going to see more information about all of this coming around. And more people are going to be talking about it. And more people are going this route. And I even had a client who you would never think that this person would ever do something, and I'm just going off of their energy, and this is what they're planning on doing.
Good.
Some of that ayahuasca stuff, this is what they're planning on doing. And I had another person, and I'm talking about people in their 50s and 60s doing this, because as Erik is saying to me, he's saying they're effing sick and tired. I'm not going to say the whole word, Erik.
Yeah.
They're effing sick and tired of feeling horrible, and now they're just, okay, let's go this route. And it's because it's coming around more, and a lot of your natural medicine people are starting to pay more attention to it.
Good. Thank God.
I know.
I have one more question about the closed portals in one's energy body and home, etc., that should be open. So, number one, once you open them, I mean, people with closed portals, they have problems with abundance, and the problems with creativity, right? But they also feel stuck a lot of times. Is that one of the symptoms of closed portals?
Erik says it can be one of the symptoms. He said, Erik says it's almost like he gives me, it's like they have a feeling of like, when you say stuck, it's like they're stuck. It's in their solar plex, almost like where they're stuck, and they just can't find any comfort.
It's just real bad spiritual constipation.
Yes, absolutely. He says that's a good analogy, Mom. He says
it's almost worse than open portals that need to be sealed. Anyway.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Erik. I love you. Thank you, Denise. I love you too. And y'all check her out at deniseramon.com. I will put it right here. All right.
Okay. Love you.
Bye.
Love you, Mama, he says.
Love you too.
All right, bye.